My name's Frankie, and I'm a 41-year-old office worker. Today I want to tell you about an experience I had. It started 3 years ago. One day I suddenly became suspicious of my wife Tori's behavior. By the way, we don't have a child, and Tori and I both work full-time. When she goes to work, Tori's company has to wear a uniform. "It's too much trouble to get changed," she says. She used to wear her uniform from home, but then one day she started coming home to work in her normal clothes. She was wearing a very fancy outfit. At first I didn't suspect anything. Just casually, "Do you have something to do today?" I asked. She replied, "Yes, I do. We have a welcome party for the newcomers, so I didn't want to go in my uniform." "Oh, didn't I tell you?" she said. It would have been okay with, "Yeah, you didn't because you're going to be late today, huh?" But I kept talking and talking. I sensed that she was a little impatient, but I had no idea that she was cheating on me. Tori was the same age as me, 40 at the time. She was slender and had a plain face, but not bad. Maybe it's because we had no children that it didn't seem like she had much going on, so she looked younger than her actual age. She had a quiet personality and a strong sense of justice. Whenever she saw a celebrity cheating on her husband on TV, she would always say, "I can't believe it. Why would they do such a thing? It's disgusting." She would say that, so I believed that she would never cheat on me. But I couldn't say why. I kept feeling a small sense of discomfort. About twice a month, she started wearing plain clothes to work, so they do have dinner parties often, I began to wonder. I wondered why the dinner meetings, which used to happen only twice a year, were now once every half a month. I was curious, so I asked Tori about it. "My new boss seems to like going out for drinks, so he says, 'Let's all go out twice a month.' I have no choice but to go because it's part of my job. Come on, give me a break, haha," she answered. "As for me, I see socializing as important, isn't it?" I said and nodded. "I'm sorry, I feel bad for you," she said apologetically. At that time, I still believed in Tori, so I said okay and ended the conversation. I thought it was inevitable for her to cooperate with her boss. I thought things would settle down soon. One day, however, a problem arose. Tori seemed to be wearing her casual clothes again that morning and was getting ready. Another drinking party today? Maybe I'll be drinking alone again today. Well, that's just how it is, I thought. But when Tori left our place, and when I happened to see the clothes she'd taken off on the bed, I saw a pair of underwear. It was a very flashy color, so I wondered if she had such flashy underwear. But when I looked more closely, I found a pair of transparent red underwear and garter stockings. I had noticed that her clothes were getting flashier, but with that fancy underwear. I finally began to think it was absolutely suspicious, no matter what. The moment I realized it, my heart started beating loudly, my face turned pale, and I was shocked that I almost collapsed. I didn't say anything that day. I just put those clothes back on the bed and went straight to work. Every time when I was walking to the station, riding the train, doing work, or eating my lunch, I couldn't stop thinking about it. For a while, I was alone every day, worrying and thinking about what to do. My thoughts just kept going round and round. It felt like I was going to fall deeper and deeper into depression. I decided it was not a good idea to continue like this, so I decided to find out who the other person was. When I started to make a move, I soon found out who it was. While Tori was taking a bath, I found her phone in the living room and decided to take a look at it. It was locked and I couldn't open it, but I put in her birthday and was able to look inside easily. Then, having made up my mind, I opened WhatsApp. I quickly found a suspicious conversation. The name of the person on the other end was familiar. It was the newly arrived boss Tori was talking about. "Today my husband told me I'd been going to drinking parties a lot. But I got away this time, so it's okay. My husband is insensitive, so don't worry, he'll never find out." Or, "I bought your favorite underwear online. I'll bring it to you next time, so I hope you cherish it," were written. I couldn't stop my hands from shaking as I looked at the contents. But I hastily took a screenshot and sent it to my phone. I also forwarded the contacts of this man named Guy. I deleted the transfer history and put the phone back, and shortly after Tori came out of the bath. When Tori came out of the bath, she started watching TV. She didn't even know that I knew about the affair. As I'm looking at Tori watching TV and laughing and stuff, suddenly I didn't want to be in the same room with her. I stayed in my room alone. There were times when I felt sad thinking about how we had to sleep in separate bedrooms, because we were both had different days off from work, but I was grateful for that this time. I holed up in my room, looking at Guy's contact information that I had transferred to my phone, and thought to myself, what should I do now? Should I tell Tori or Guy? I don't have much evidence to go on, so they might be able to get away with it, even if I confronted them at this stage. After some thought, I decided to contact Guy's wife first. Tori had Guy's home number, so it would be easy to contact Guy's wife directly. Then the next day, during my lunch break, I called Guy's house. The person who picked up the phone was Guy's wife, as I expected. His wife was confused by a phone call from his subordinate's husband, but as I explained the situation step by step, I was able to get her to believe me. As I apologized for calling her out of the blue, "No, I'm glad you told me. Thank you," she said. I was a little relieved. Guy's wife asked to see the screenshots of the evidence. When I offered to send them to her via WhatsApp, she said she would like to see them in person if possible. I agreed. We met up a few days later at a train station in a city a few miles away. On the day of the meeting, I was waiting at a ticket gate of the station when a woman approached me. Frankie? Yes? Yes, I'm Guy's wife, Sky. You've been a great help to my husband." "No, it's thanks to him for looking after her," I said, although I greeted her in a way that sounded a little sarcastic. I was surprised at how beautiful and stylish Sky was. After the greetings were over, we went to the coffee shop in the station building and got right down to business. How are the messages? You're sure it's Guy, right? I showed her the screen of my phone, and Sky nodded. Yes, that's him. Then she looked at some images and frowned. They're meeting up on my birthday, huh? Unforgivable. And others. We had to attend a memorial service on that day, but he suddenly said he had to work, so I had to go alone. Ah, so disgusting. I love you 1,000,000 times more than my wife, Sky said, reading on for a while. Then handed the phone back to me and made a suggestion. This one's already confirmed. I'll also try to check Guy's phone. I don't know why. Why don't the two of us work together to get revenge? I said, huh? What do you mean? When I asked, Sky grinned. Let's leave it as it is for a while, gather more evidence like this, and then confront them with it all at once. And let's get alimony. Frankie, do you want to start over? Do you want a divorce? I'm definitely getting a divorce. I nodded, thinking that beautiful women can also look good even with a wicked smile. I'm thinking of leaving too. Sky said, then we should definitely work together. Then I said, I understand. I look forward to working with you. I nodded, and so began a collaboration between Sky and I. We exchanged information mainly via WhatsApp, and occasionally met up. As we talked, I learned that Sky is the same age as me and from the same hometown, so we began to feel close to each other. Then we exchanged information, such as the date my wife and Guy met, and their WhatsApp exchanges. At Sky's suggestion, I hired a detective and also got photos of them going in and out of a hotel. By that time, I had lost all affection for Tori, and I started to enjoy collecting evidence. Then one day, Sky contacted me. It's time to push those two into a corner. It looks like the two of them are meeting up tomorrow. I thought I had enough evidence, so I agreed and decided to go to the scene. Then, a little after 6 p.m. that day, Sky and I went to wait for Tori and Guy near their favorite bar. They showed up at around 7 p.m. Tori was looking happy, arm in arm with Guy. I didn't think anything of it when I saw them, and I realized that I was completely over it after all. Sky seemed to feel the same way. She was so angry that it looked like she'd definitely make them pay. A little after we entered the store, Sky and I headed inside. We were greeted by the clerk, and I told him we were meeting someone. I looked around the restaurant, found the two of them at a table, and moved forward with Sky. As if by chance, I called out to them. Good evening. Oh, hey, you had a drinking party at work today, didn't you? Tori and Guy. Tori and Guy noticed us and their smiles disappeared and they turned pale. Tori was panicking. What are you doing here? She asked. Oh, it's just a coincidence. I just saw you enter, I replied. What the hell are you even doing? Guy was upset. I also happened to see you enter here. Are you two alone at this drinking party? Sky looked happy. I greeted Guy, and Sky greeted my wife, in a deliberate manner. Guy, is that you? Thank you for always taking care of my wife at work. Tori, nice to meet you. You've always been great help to my husband. Tori and Guy greeted back with subtle expressions. It's just the two of us today, right, Tori? Yes, everyone else couldn't make it, so... While I was trying not to burst out laughing at their attitude. Oh, it's just the two of you. Then may we have a drink with you? She said. Guy, who was stumped, said, Oh, no, that's a little bit too much. Sky asked, Is there something wrong with us being here? Sky and Guy were silent for a moment and then both said together, No, nothing like that. I took advantage of the situation. Sky, let's sit down for now. What would you like to drink? And sat down next to Tori. We started off by saying, I think I'll have a beer, that sounds good. While we're ordering our drinks, Tori and Guy looked very awkward. Then the drinks arrived. Sky called out for a toast, and an awkward toast was made. She drank the beer with gusto, leaving Guy looking downcast. Then asked as if an idea had just occurred to her. Oh, are you guys going to the party after this? Is it at the usual hotel? Then Guy spewed out the beer he had been drinking. Oh, are you okay? Sky said with a blank expression on her face. What do you mean by hotel? Guy coughed. How could you not know? You go there often. Tori, you know about the hotel, don't you? Tori suddenly looked remorseful and turned away. No, she said. Seeing Tori's small shoulders shaking, I opened my mouth too. Oh, that's right. I had something I wanted to show my wife, and it's a good thing Guy is here too. Let's all look at it together. And then I showed them a printout of the screenshot of the WhatsApp messages. It's a very naked selection of the content. This is a conversation between you two, huh? And here's an image of you two that was taken by Sky. I said that in rapid succession. I showed them the documents that Sky and I had worked on putting together. The image of them going in and out of the hotel seemed to be the final blow. So Guy sighed, covered his face with his hands, and nodded. Tori was silent for a moment, but she suddenly apologized to me and Sky. Sky laughed happily. With all this evidence, it's hard to say anything, isn't it? I'm getting a divorce. I'm going to make you pay alimony. So please be prepared for that. I continued, I'm the same as Sky, so please take care of that for me as well. Then we both left. Tori and Guy remained nodding and unable to respond. Tori then said, I don't want to leave because I'll do anything except divorce. She cried over and over again, but I could never forgive her. I requested for millions of dollars in alimony and was able to get divorced. Guy also had to pay Sky, so his parents-in-law had worked out the money, and they'll be paying it back in installments from now on. Sky explained the situation to her company, and she resigned because it became difficult for her to stay. She's now back at her hometown looking for a new job. She was also able to get a divorce successfully. She received alimony as well as the apartment she's living in, I heard. Of course, I got alimony too. Guy has not quit his job, but he has been moved to a faraway place. I heard that he had been demoted, and I think I'll have a hard time from now on. Actually, I received a phone call on the day Sky's divorce was finalized. She said, "I got divorced without a hitch. Thanks to you, I feel very refreshed. I was wondering if you'd like to go out for a drink with me." As a comrade in arms, but since we've become such good friends, I'd appreciate it if you keep in touch. But I politely declined. When we were meeting together to gather evidence of an affair, I was almost captivated by the beautiful Sky, but I thought it would be bad if two people investigating an affair cheated on each other, so I suppressed those feelings. Now that the divorce is finalized, I can see us dating, but when it came down to it, I didn't feel like it. I was tired after everything that had happened, and perhaps I wanted to be alone first. I guess Sky must have guessed what was going on because I have not heard from her since then. Now that I think about it, I probably should have gone out for a drink at that time. But now that I'm divorced, I feel better, so I should forget about that time and look for someone new. If there is a next time, I want to be happy this time, and I hope Sky will be happy too.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look, "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, what's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. "Why is he so angry?" Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike. What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.